My name is James Rudy, and you're listening to episode 96 of the Who's on Top podcast.
For that, let's get spicy, Jeremy, and it's a perfect transition into our NBA playoff segment. We're going to recap first the matchups that we already know, and we will start in the Eastern Conference. And Ellis, I'm just going to since when I wrote this, we didn't know it was Celtics versus Nets, but we'll start with Celtics versus Nets. So this might be the most interesting one. Celtics versus Nets. You got the best defensive team in the NBA versus a team with two superstars that have as high a ceiling as you could get, as low a floor as you could get. And this is going to be interesting. You have so many storylines. You have Kyrie going back to Boston. You have KD first playoff after his injury. Oh no, second playoff after his injury. You have whether Robert Williams comes back. You have Jason Tatum. Can he finally put a team on his back?
Ben Simmons.
So many storylines.
Ben Simmons.
And Ben Simmons possibly coming back. Forgot about maybe the biggest. So we'll start. Ellis, what are you looking for? What are you looking for in this series?
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate one of these teams have to go because I think both teams deserve to be in the second round the way they're playing. Listen, when we've talked about this all season when predicting NBA games. When it comes to the NBA playoffs, it's all about star power, right? And I like what I'm looking for here is because I know what KD and Kyrie are going to do. I'm confident. But Jason Tatum, who's been great all season, and Jaylen Brown both can be amazing players and can't miss a shot, and then will come back next game and not hit a shot. So I'm looking at those two. What can they do? They've been great this year. What can they do, though, in the playoffs when they're going up against – because that's really the star matchup. I know there's Marcus Smart in it. It's not all about that, but – when you're looking at the crux, you're looking at KD and Kyrie versus Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Of course, KD and Kyrie are going to be better. There's no doubting that. But can Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown be a little worse so that the rest of the role players break in? Because obviously the role players for the Celtics, in my opinion, are much better than the role players for the Nets. But for me, and James is going to like this.
I disagree with that. Off the
bat. You think?
Yeah.
Well, maybe not with Robert Williams, but
with Robert Williams is a different story.
Well, what's the injury status in Robert Williams?
There is a report. It seemed like he was not going to come back until the second round, but there's a report that he's coming back possibly in the first round. So that would be that's huge. That's huge. Although maybe not as huge as it would be versus some other teams because the Nets are a jump shooting team. Not as much, it'd probably matter a lot more against.
I think I disagree because I think I was discussing this with my roommate yesterday. I think that the Celtics last year 4-1 Nets Celtics, right?
These are very different teams though now. In terms of playing wise.
So I agree. But the thing is that I think that last year the Celtics, it's exactly like Ellis said, where it's like, okay, they're going to shoot lights out and then the next game, maybe they both won't show up. Maybe they both can't shoot. But I think the difference with the Celtics this year is that you have the second rated defense, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
first rated defense,
my bad. And, last year when they weren't able to shoot, when the shots weren't going in, they would fall apart. They would get blown out. But I think the difference is this year with the Celtics is that they've got that defense that can back them up, that can grind them out through games. Now, the truth is that you make the point, Robert Williams does, would that impact a team like the Nets because we're jump shooting? The thing that you have to remember is that Durant wants the mid-range. Kyrie operates in the paint. He scores a lot of his points in the paint. We have a team that wants to shoot it from anywhere we can get it. And the Robert Williams not being in the paint, I think changes a lot. Last year, it might have been a 4-1 and you're right, it's a different team, but I think that Robert Williams had an impact. And I think that depending on how many games he plays here, especially considering the first two are in TD Garden, I think that if the Nets take one on the road in the first two games, I think it could be over soon. But
I think the key thing with this, and it sort of goes off what you guys are saying, is who is the third scorer on the Celtics? I think the third scorer, I think it was Marcus Smart, was with 14 points per game, but he's really more of a defensive player. Can a guy like Peyton Pritchard come out with some big minutes off the bench?
What about White?
Can White come up? Can Grant Williams shoot some threes? Like, that's really because you're right. If Tatum and Brown don't have good series, like, it's over. There's so much depending on them, and specifically Jason Tatum. And Robert Williams makes all the difference in the world. It's not just about
Marcus Smart and Kyrie, because Marcus Smart just won Defensive Player of the Year, I believe, right?
Yeah.
And he's going up against probably at one of the best bag in the NBA. In Kyrie, and by the way, he's been ridiculously hot as of late. Listen, you don't need to stop Kyrie. You need to slow him down, obviously. But
I think Marcus Smart is you can't get a better guy in the league probably to put on Kyrie.
For sure.
Not just that he's a great defensive player, but how just annoying he is. The hustle, he could really get under Kyrie's skin. But about Grant Williams, it's not just that if he could go out there and limp around. He needs to be not Grant Williams, Robert Williams, sorry. It's not just about whether he could go out there and limp around and, play some minutes. It's about whether he could be the guy who was in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year. And that's what this series is about.
Here's my prediction, since we're probably running up that. I think I'm gonna go Nets in 7. I first said 6, but I'm gonna push it back 7. I think Robert Williams comes back, helps them snag an extra game. Listen, when it comes to the NBA, we're talking about all these matchups, and they do matter. But Robert Williams helped secure boards against like Nick Claxton and people like that. But like Katie and Kyrie are playing so good, and to choose against them, I know how good the Celtics are, but I think if it comes down to Game 7, right? Like I'm picking Katie and Kyrie, and I think it will come down to Game 7. I think I will pick Katie and Kyrie. I think they come out of there. No disrespect to the Celtics, they deserve to be moving on to the second round. It's just the Nets had one of the weirdest seasons because they're a 7 seed. That's obviously much better than a 7 seed.
I agree with you. And I think that a lot of people, like I've been all over Instagram. NBA Instagram is a mess. But like if you read NBA Instagram, it's all Celtics in 4, Celtics in 5. And, people want to shit on the Nets defense, and granted it's atrocious. I'm definitely not defending it. But, when you spent 25 games of your season with G League starters, that impacts a lot. That hurts your defensive rating. When you're playing 82 games and 25 of your games, you're operating with your 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th string guys. Those are going to affect your season ending stats. And I think that, Durant's defensive stats have been so impactful. Nicholas Claxton has the best defensive rating on our team. And I know that's so hard to be like, that's the reason why our defense is going to show up. But like, who knows? This guy Simmons touches the court. I don't care if he doesn't shoot one shot. I don't care if he doesn't.
See, I disagree with that one because who says he'll be fit for the game if he shows up on the court?
I feel like
I don't care. Why will
I don't know. I feel like to be honest with Ben Simmons, I feel like it's hard to really put him in the equation just because we haven't seen him in a year. Like, I still think, honestly, the Nets could win without him. I think that they are a very good team, and I kind of agree that I think in the playoffs, star power generally matters more than bench, especially. And I know that's one thing I was saying to Coward earlier that he kind of was saying is that bench shrinks. So I think I'd kind of agree with Ellis that probably Nets in 7. I just think that they have slightly more star power. And I do kind of agree that I think the season isn't necessarily indicative when you have Kyrie having all these problems and everything that's kind of all the chaos that's been in the Nets organization.
But listen,
and I think, okay.
Well, I was going to say, you're not going to get a better series than this in the first round.
Oh, no, definitely not.
This is probably one of the best first round series, not the best.
So, Dan, I know you're probably going to pick the Celtics as a Celtics fan, but I'm sure you have a good reason. So go ahead.
Yeah. I think one thing we're not considering, you guys picked Celtics in 7. I think the TD Garden is going to be you picked Nets in 7, excuse me.
Yeah.
I think TD Garden is going to be absolutely rocking. I know from being around Celtics fans and Celtics Twitter, the hatred for Kyrie runs
but he feasts
so deep.
He eats.
But I don't know. I feel like
Kyrie has played good in TD Garden.
That's kind of
but it's not about it's not just about Kyrie. It's about just how loud that crowd's going to be. And it might not affect Kyrie, but some of these other role players.
I don't know. It's going to be I guess, but I kind of feel like that's the Nets, though, right? The Nets. The whole thing is that they're the villains. They're playing the villains. They're used to being rooted against. I don't think it affects them as much as other teams.
Yeah, it's not like tons of people go to Barclays anyway.
I'm just telling you that going into TD Garden
in game 7 is gonna be hard. I agree
as
with that.
opposed to playing at home is huge. That is a huge difference.
But
sure.
I really believe that if the Nets win one of the first 2 games, I don't think it will go to 7.
What do you think it'll go to 6 or 5?
I really think so. I think that the Celtics, in order for them to win, in order for this to go to 7, they need to win the first 2 games in TD. Otherwise,
yeah, that's a fair point. But they might.
I think the Celtics can. I think as the series goes on, you guys could disagree with this or correct me, but I feel like the Celtics have the advantage the longer it goes. They're a defensive, physical team. The Nets are a finesse offensive team. Like, I think the Celtics could really tire the Nets out the longer the series goes.
Also, let's be honest, the coaching matchup is a mismatch too.
Definitely so. And also, I really like that take because I think that the problem with the Nets also is that when you need Durant and Irving to play 42 minutes to be in the game, and you're doing that for 6 games, 7 games, that impacts things. In April, before the last game of the season, Durant played the second half every single game. That is nuts. And you're leaning on a guy who's had a lot of injuries, who's who's been in and out of the lineup. And I think that that's a problem. And listen, I'm a Nets fan. I want my team to win, but I think that that's a great call. And I would be worried, about dropping games early on if I'm the Nets, because you're trying to get this over with as fast as you possibly can. And I think that's a good take.
Well, I think we could all agree that this is going to be a hell of a series. So let's move on to another series that should be good. And that is the defending champion Milwaukee Bucks versus the Chicago Bulls. Now, I think there's only one
take
number.
for this. I don't know if it's a hot take. I think it's gonna be a sweep.
I don't think that's a hot take. I don't think that's a hot take at all, to be honest.
Well, I was going to say is there's one number that matters, and that's 1-14, or maybe that's 2 numbers. But that's the Bulls' record against top 4 teams of the conference, which of course includes the Milwaukee Bucks. They're 20th in the NBA in point differential, middle of the pack offense, well below average defense. Lonzo Ball's out. Like, I don't see how they make this competitive.
Am I crazy if I think that Lonzo Ball changes this series?
No. In terms of Bulls win, or it's competitive?
No, competitive.
Yes, I think if Lonzo Ball's Bucks win.
Yeah, I don't think if you were saying Bulls win, then yes. But
no,
yeah,
I think like this could be a 4-0 if he doesn't play, but I think if he played, this could be like a 7-game or a 6.
I agree. I will say though that
7 games.
I wouldn't put it past DeMar DeRozan, even though he sucked in the playoffs before. But the new DeMar DeRozan to carry his team to like a game 3 victory or something like that, and then never show up again, because like DeMar, when he's on this season, he's ridiculous. But overall, yeah, I think I don't know. There's not much. It's just the Bulls really have not been good against good teams, and the Bucks are they've had their season struggles at times, but they're the Bucks still, and no one on that team is guarding Giannis. Like, no one. So if you don't have a player that guards Giannis, it's gonna be really hard to beat the Bucks.
Honestly, yeah. To be honest, I feel like this is probably not one of the best matchups of this kind of playoff round, just because. I think the Bulls, I don't know, at least to me, it seems like they've kind of just been reeling. They haven't been nearly as good in the second half as the first half. The Bucks are as good as ever. They've been in this situation before. They've been in the playoffs before. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I couldn't really see it going to 7 games, to be honest.
Yeah.
Maybe like 5 or 6, but I kind of think this is going to be a pretty handed win, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. I think that like the front court depth for Chicago is just so bad. And when you have a team that's just so long, like Milwaukee, you have Giannis, now you have Lopez back, Portis, even Middleton has length. And then they traded for Serge Ibaka before the deadline. I think that that's a team that just has way too much length. And I don't think they're going to be able to, like, athletically, I don't think they can keep up with Milwaukee.
All right, let's move on to a much more competitive series. I think this is going to be surprisingly more competitive than people think. 76ers versus Raptors. Part of this is, I'm going to mention it right away, Matisse Thybulle cannot play in a way. So games 3 and 4, potentially games 6, and then the rest he's fine. But the 76ers' best defender by far cannot play.
Also, kind of probably to add to that, Harden has not been entirely healthy. And while Harden's playing, it's not entirely sure what condition he's going to be in, which is really good
this season that much. But I'll say this. I think the 76ers do get this one. I think they get this one in 7. I almost buy them. I'm really. Did you see Doc Rivers' comments on Paul Reed?
Yeah.
Like, what is he saying? But Doc Rivers is being carried by one championship his whole career. Not the point, though. I think this is a series. I think you could see a series because Matisse Thybulle is so well. Matisse Thybulle / the whole 76ers crowd is so impactful. And like both these are both great home stadium like advantages. Drake's gonna be in the building.
Yeah.
But I think this is a series where you can see each team, no team lose a home game. I think the Raptors are despite them being like the perfect matchup for the 76ers because the 76ers can't handle quick small ball that well. I still think my rule about star power wins out. I'm taking Embiid. No disrespect to Siakam. I'm taking Embiid over Siakam every single day of the week. I think it's going to be Game 7. Embiid drops, let's just say 45 at home, and they go into the second round, hurt but still alive.
I will say those. I definitely think just to hype up the Raptors a little bit, the second half of this season, they've been amazing.
Yeah.
They started out 10-13, then went on a 38-21 run. Scotty Barnes has been insane this year. And if it wasn't for Evan Mobley, he might be rookie of the year. He's like that kind of level. So I think he's been playing very well. I don't know. I think Matisse Thybulle, especially against Siakam, that loss, as you're saying, is big. I don't know. I guess to me, honestly, it'll end up with on Embiid because Harden's kind of banged up, Thybulle's out, and I don't know. I think to me, honestly, I think I'd still take the Sixers in 7, but it's just going to end up having to be a lot on Embiid, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I know star
power.
power.
He's by far top player.
I don't think it's going 7. Like I say this all the time. In the playoffs, you need someone. You need a true number 1 scorer who could take over a game, right? And the Sixers have 2 of those. The Raptors have none of them. Like, who's getting the ball when the game's on the line?
Well, we'll see James Harden. James Harden. I just want to say James Harden is having his worst efficiency.
I know, but he's still better scorer than anybody the Raptors have.
So
sure.
Okay, I'm just gonna play devil's advocate here for a second, and I think that everything you guys is fair. Like, I think that Philly should win. They absolutely should win. But I think this might be the problem. I think that with no Thybulle, I think that your defense gets a lot worse.
For sure.
And I think that if you let Trent and if you let Anunoby and you let these guys hit threes, James Harden won't ever close out once in an entire game. So, like, I think that, if they get burnt in one of these games, like one of these games where it seems like, oh, Philly's going to win it, and then Toronto comes back and they sneak a win, I would not be surprised to see Toronto in the second round. And, like, obviously I'm a Nets fan, so I'm hating, but, like, I think that, like, Philly's going to win. Philly's going to win. But I think that if they underrate Van Vliet and they underrate Anunoby and they underrate Trent and they don't get out on those 3-point shooters,
for sure,
it's possible.
And Nick Nurse is a great coach.
Let's see. So we don't have the final matchup for Heat versus whoever they're going to play in the first round. It's going to be the winner of Cavs and it looks like Hawks. Again, 1 versus 8. It could be interesting because the Heat are a pretty flawed team, and Hornets and Hawks both have some firepower. But
let's remember the Hawks made a great run last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but the Heat are too good for this. This is So they win.
Yeah, I think it's not. We don't need to talk much about
let's move on to the West.
All right, let's move on to the Western Conference, and we will start with the 2 versus 7 game like we did with the East. And this is going to be an interesting one. Grizzlies Timberwolves. I feel like it could be closer than people think. Still going to roll with the Grizzlies, but the Timberwolves, I mean, we saw what they could do. Even when Cat has a terrible game, like, they still pulled out the win. They're starting 5 of Patrick Beverley, D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Edwards, Jared Vanderbilt, and Cat. I mean, that's a really good starting 5, and they're explosive on offense. So I think it could be closer than people think.
I agree. The season series is split 2-2. A lot of people don't realize that,
They had good success against them for sure.
Yeah. So I think that it should be a wash. It should be a 4-1 or a 4-2, but
I'm going to go 4-2. I know how good the Timberwolves are offense, and yes, James, they have improved their defense, but it's still not great. Beverly does help, but
I don't know.
The Grizzlies have been so good this year that,
and it just even the Grizzlies. The fact that the Grizzlies have done so much without Ja too, like
for sure.
The fact that they're able to do that without their star, like I don't know, that tells me more than anything.
I'll definitely give Timberwolves stealing 2 games, but I think this will be an uncompetitive 6-game series.
But it's
if there is
also
one.
2 teams without playoff experience. And that's why I think
For
it
sure.
could be a very different environment from what we've seen from both these teams in the regular season.
For sure, except I do generally tend to trust Joe. But we'll see. I mean, yeah.
Grizzlies went out.
I think Grizzlies.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't think that makes a difference in this series, but the Grizzlies obviously go against the Suns or the Warriors. That could be a factor. Speaking of the Warriors, let's talk about their matchup versus the Nuggets, which I think is very interesting. You have the hidden element of whether Steph Curry is healthy, and that the Warriors' big three has played 11 minutes combined all season. But then you got the Nuggets, who are still seem to be without Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. Any notes on that? It sounds like they may be back soon.
Shut down for the rest.
I heard they're done. Like,
Yeah, I heard that.
maybe
What I
they
read said
could
that.
run, maybe, but I don't know.
Yeah.
If I could go first in this one, I think to me, I'm probably pretty easily rolling with the Warriors. I know Steph Curry's health is a little bit in question, but honestly, I don't know. To me, this Nuggets team was like a great regular season story for Jokic. He's kind of been carrying the team again. He may win MVP again. Like, I know we'll talk about that a little bit later. Like, he's an insane player, and don't mean to take anything away from him. But they just, especially with all the injuries they've had, they just don't really have much beyond him. And I don't know. I know stars are important, but with the exception of LeBron for all those years, I don't really think one star is enough to carry a team to like late in the playoffs or like through a playoff win. So I guess, I don't know. I feel like to me, I'd say Warriors in 5 or 6, to be honest.
If Curry comes back, I got Warriors in 5, pretty much for everything you just said. And remember, they've only played 11 minutes, but they're still the 3rd seed. Jordan Poole became an absolute bucket this year from out of nowhere.
That guy should win the most.
So I if Curry doesn't come back for a lot of games, if like he misses one game, it'll be fine. If Curry misses like 3 games, all right, well then maybe this becomes a series. But if Curry's back game 1, I think this is a 5-game wash.
The thing I worry about is that the Warriors really don't have a center to compete with Jokic.
For sure.
And it's going to take them really to shoot the lights out to win this series. I think this could be another long series, 6-7 games, but I think the addition of Jordan Poole and getting Draymond Green back, or not the addition of Jordan Poole, but the development of Jordan Poole really makes the difference. So are we all going Warriors here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, I agree, but I think that if these Curry health problems continue,
well then, yes.
I have the Nuggets. Like, I think that you say 3 games, I could say 1. I could see Curry missing the first game, and then the Nuggets win that, and then they get 2 games in a row in Denver.
So let's talk about the last matchup we're going to talk about, which is the Dallas Mavericks and the Utah Jazz.
I think this.
I know I've been saying all these matchups are interesting, but to me, this one is.
I don't think so though.
No, now
Doncic
it's over.
Out.
Doncic is over. This could be a 4-1.
He's out indefinitely.
He is?
Yeah.
How did I miss that?
I don't know. He's out indefinitely.
I
thought he was just.
I agree.
All right.
It's sad. It sucks because I think that Doncic this year would have shown what he can do in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think Doncic wins in 6 if Mavericks out.
Yeah.
But listen, everyone knows the Mavericks are a one-man team. Listen, they got some good role players, but in terms of star power, they're a one-man team. Doncic might be back. No one knows. He's out indefinitely. That means nothing in terms of playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to go under the assumption that indefinitely means the whole series, right? Like I think that's a fair assumption to make.
Well, I mean, keep in mind, 2 weeks, that could be the series could still be going on in 2 weeks. This is the NBA playoffs,
Yeah, for sure.
So,
but without Doncic, I am picking the Jazz in 5.
Right. That's the way I'm thinking because
which, by the way, wait 1 second. I just want to say this shows you how valuable the Doncic is. Because if Doncic was playing this game, I would have Mavs in 6, and if Doncic's out, I've Jazz, and I'll give Mavs 2 games.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree. I think entirely it's his health. Like what are the Mavs without Luka?
Yeah, who are you leaning on? Spencer Dinwiddie, Jalen Brunson, Dwight Powell. Davis Bertans, like you're not winning with.
Spencer Dinwiddie will get some buckets, but yeah, no, it's not.
All right, well, let me bring out a scenario for you. The Jazz choke away a couple games that they should win, like they have all season.
He comes back.
Series goes to 6. Luka comes back. Mavericks have home court advantage. They steal a game in Utah in game 6. Like, it can happen. But again, without Luka, no shot. I think we all agree on that.
If Luka comes back and the Mavericks are down 1 in the series, I'll predict them to win no matter what.
You know what? I like what you said, because I think that the one thing that is different about the Mavericks this year compared to the past couple of years, where like Doncic has really developed into a superstar, is their defense. Because I think that Kid has done good things with their defense this year, and I agree. I think that their defense might be able to grind them a win because the Jazz will choke a game or two, and that can keep them alive in the series. And if they can even get Doncic back for Game 7 or Game 6, I think that's
huge. That's huge. Yeah. No.
And then I want to talk about this 1-8 seed quickly, but not. I got the Suns. We don't have to talk about it. I was on the fence on the play-in, right? And then by doing a deep dive, I was just looking at the standings. And now I absolutely am infuriated by the play-in, because the fact that let me just give you the numbers. The fact that the Pelicans can make the 8th seed. Sorry, the Spurs can make the 8th seed.
11 games below 500.
11 games below 500. Like, this, remember, the Spurs, not necessarily tanked, but they traded away Derek White. They were actively trying to lose this trade deadline, and they still made the 10 seed because the Lakers imploded like nobody's business. But like, rewarding teams with a chance to make the 8th seed when your record is 34-48, that's not a losing record. That's not even just a normal losing record. They were bad. They had a 41% win percentage in the NBA, and yet they still have a chance to make the finals, to make the 8th seed. The Suns are going to win, but this just proves the plan. I get the ratings. They're going to keep it. My voice doesn't matter, but it makes the shit way too delusional. The Pelicans too. The Pelicans are not good. They have 36 wins.
But the Pelicans started 1 for 16
for sure,
and then they blew that shit up. And
then at least the Clippers have a winning record. Like, I would, even if the Clippers win, I'm not picking them against the Suns, but at least they have a winning record. Like, you should not be rewarded. Like, I know every sport's doing this. We talked about this in baseball too, but baseball is such a selective playoffs that even when like the new team that's getting in, they're still good, right?
Yeah.
You should not be rewarded for having a losing season by making the playoffs. And by the way, losing season under 11 games, that's horrible. So I don't know. I hate the play-in.
You can feel the value of the play-in if you look in the East, though. Because if you look at the West, yeah, you're right. You're going to see 2 teams that are way below 500 that have no right being there. But if you look in the East, you have Charlotte and Atlanta with identical records, both above 500. You know, you like those teams are good, and they have playoff level success. Like, I think that they can.
That's fair. Fair.
I think that if you're the 20th best team in your league, you should not be a playoff team.
No, I'm kind of a little bit with Dan, to be honest, but no, I don't know. I do think there are some interesting teams in the play-in, though, right? Yeah, like I think the Hawks wouldn't have made it in without it, and they're a really interesting team. Like, do I think they're going to do anything? Probably not, but
okay, right. So
we talk about that.
Yeah, I know. I have an idea of what I want to do. So let's talk about. Obviously, we all have some different predictions out of the first round. So I want everyone to go around. Give me your finals matchup in each conference. Then who's going to come out of that, and finally your NBA champion. So we'll start with our guest, James.
So the conference championships, and then who's going to be an NBA championship?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think from the West, I would go. I want to say Suns Warriors. That's possible according to the bracket?
That is possible. Yeah.
Right. I think that, you know, if the Warriors are able to get Steph Curry in the court, I think Klay Thompson's playing like an animal right now, and I think you finally have Draymond Green returning to where he was when he was in that Defensive Player of the Year conversation, and I think that they will make a deep run. Who do I have? It's very health dependent, but I'm going to say in that one, I'm going to go Warriors. Warriors to the NBA Finals, and I would go ballistic to see my Nets in the finals, but I think it's going to be Milwaukee. So Eastern Conference Championship, I think it's going to be Milwaukee. And then what's the other side? You know, you got, 2, 3. Who is it again?
He would be the way we predict there would be Heat versus 76ers.
Heat or 76ers probably.
See, I don't like either of those teams.
I think the Heat beat the 76ers in 7.
Okay, I like that. You know, I think it's going to be Warriors, Milwaukee, but don't sleep on my Nets.
If the Nets beat the Bucks, I think they're going to win the whole thing. I think it's the same thing as last year, where they got to get past the Bucks, they can win the whole thing. But I'll move on. Transition.
Well, you saw Kevin Durant this time. You know, he had that wide open 3, and he made sure that foot was behind the line this time.
For sure.
We're not having no line issues.
But I will say, comes down to my final point. If the Nets beat the Bucks, I do not think the Nets beat the Bucks. I'll go Bucks. You know what? I really do think. No, I just said the Heat will beat the 76ers. I'm going to change it. I think Joel Embiid has one of the craziest 2-series runs you've ever seen. Gets to the Eastern Conference Finals, and the Bucks beat them by 5 in 5 games. On the other side, I got Suns Warriors. I think Warriors playoff experience. Well, if Curry's out, I think it'll be Grizzlies. But I'm assuming Curry's in. Warriors playoff experience is good
got
enough.
Into full practice today,
for sure.
That's an important thing to
is good enough to beat the Grizzlies in, let's say, 6. From there, the Suns I think are out for blood. They beat the Warriors in a tight 7-game series. Oh my God. They beat the Warriors in a tight 7-game series. Sorry, the Yankees are crumbling. They beat the Warriors in a tight 7-game series. And then the Suns get revenge in 6 this time. They beat the Bucks, and Suns are NBA champions.
No.
All right, I guess
I can go next.
Okay.
So I don't mean to copy Ellis, but I think my bracket's almost exactly the same. So I don't know. I feel bad predicting a repeat final, but to be honest, I mean, I don't know. I think that's something we've seen even recently, right? Like you saw the Cavs and the Warriors run the finals for like 3 straight years. Like I think it's a pretty common thing in the NBA, and I honestly think that the Bucks and the Suns are still the 2 best teams. So I think for me, from the West, it's definitely Suns Warriors. I think Suns are the best team in the NBA. I think they win it. I think that's, to me, that's probably my easiest one of the finals picks. Then it's between, I think, Bucks. I don't know I'm also debating 76ers and Heat because I think the Bucks beat either of them. I don't really love either team. But yeah, between those two. I might stick with 76ers too, because I don't know. Because I feel like the 76ers will win the first round. I think you know what? No, I'm going to go with the Heat. I think they're a more complete team. I think the Heat make it, and then the Bucks beat the Heat, and then the Suns do get their revenge. And yeah, I'd say actually probably again revenge in 6 or 7. So I'd say 6.
See, but like, how can you can actually see Giannis melting down like that?
I don't see Giannis melting down.
I see that happening.
I don't even think it's melting down. I just don't think the Suns are going to play
absolutely
better.
But listen,
ballistic.
Booker's play style is built for the playoffs. And like, I'm totally not taking that away, but like this guy, Giannis plays winning basketball.
No, listen,
it's very tough.
It's not that I see him. I don't necessarily see him like breaking down, but I think the entire team had a great run last year, right? Giannis, I don't know if I see him playing quite as insane as he did last year. I don't know if I see Middleton playing quite as well as he did last year. He played very well in the playoffs. Like, I don't think it's necessarily a breakdown. I still have them going to the finals. I just
think the Suns step it up a level. I remember they had.
I think I expected the Suns to win last year.
And they dropped 4 games in a row.
They didn't play well. But I think I don't know. Booker's got that.
But I think also this Milwaukee team is a more complete team than last year's team.
For sure. Oh, no doubt.
All right. Let me finish off with my predictions. I'm just going to start with the East because I think that's easiest. So I had the Celtics. I was the only one, I think, to pick the Celtics to come out of the first round. I think Celtics Bucks is your Eastern Conference final, even though it will take place in the semifinals.
That even happen?
Yeah, Celtics are the 2 seed. Bucks are the 3 seed.
Yes, that can't happen.
No, it can if they both. Yeah, 2 versus 3 play each other.
No, 2 versus 3 would be in the semifinal.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It would be.
Okay.
So, I'm trying to figure out where I knew you. All right, so I think I'll give the edge to the Bucks, but I think when you have a healthy Robert Williams, the Celtics can really beat anyone if they play their best basketball over a 7-game stretch. What? It's true.
Milwaukee would slam the Celtics.
I think
All
so.
right, we'll see. I'm picking them to
I'm gonna be honest. You're doing what I'm doing. Where if they play their best, anyone can win.
That's not true in every case.
I think if that's what you're saying. Plays their best, they can maybe beat, Milwaukee.
If the Celtics play the way they were playing over the past month, then yeah, they could beat anybody.
That's a fair point.
Okay.
When they were beating everybody, when they went on a 21-2 stretch or whatever, and I'm pretty sure they beat the Bucks during that stretch.
They did.
And then in the other, I'm not big on the Heat. I think you need a premier scorer, and the Heat really don't have that. Sixers have 2.
You don't think that Tyler has developed into complete scorer this year.
He's a sixth man.
But he plays. I was paying attention to this. Yeah, he plays a lot of minutes with the starting lineup. Like a lot of the times, what they'll do is they'll take out either Strus or Lowry, and they'll keep.
He's not a real
sixth
man.
five.
You're correct. Okay,
like,
I get that.
And like he was great this year.
But they don't have anyone like Embiid. I'm sorry.
They do not have anyone.
I definitely agree. But the thing is, right? We saw this guy Tyler Hero as a rookie drop 30 in a finals game and win them a game. So like you've seen his impact before. I'm not trying to say this guy's gonna win, the whole thing for them, but I think he can show up for them. They have scoring power. They do
for sure.
Yeah, but he's not an Embiid to be fair.
Yeah, that's the point I'm trying to make. So that's why I give the slight edge to the Sixers. And then you got Sixers and Bucks, and I think that the Bucks are going to overwhelm the Sixers, probably in 5. Not going to be that close. Then let's talk about the West. Clippers are a sleeping giant. If the Clippers are able to win, they could, and I don't know what Kawhi's situation is if he could come back at the end. I mean, no one really knows, right?
No.
But they could give the Suns possibly a little bit of a tough fight, wear them down in the first round. Then the other matchup, I have the Grizzlies over the Timberwolves, although I said that would be pretty close. As we said, the Jazz are going to run over the who do I have them playing? The Jazz are going to run over the Mavs, and then the Warriors are going to sweep by the Nuggets. So that leaves Warriors, Grizzlies. That I'm going to give the edge to the Grizzlies. Actually, I just think the Grizzlies. Sometimes when your star player is out, it forces everybody else to grow, and I think that's what happened. And now they have Ja back, and now they could really get things going. So I have Grizzlies, and then I have Suns because Jazz are chokers, and then I have the Suns. Grizzlies experience is going to come out and play. So we all have Suns, Bucks, and this is going to be so close. I mean, we forget the Suns were up 2-0 last year, and I think the motivation to get Chris Paul
that Mamba mentality is going to get to the win. I'm not just talking about stats.
Having 6 weeks off with a like a hand injury, like that's not a lingering sort of injury. It's not like a knee or a hamstring, so he'll be ready to go. Booker take the next step. Suns in 7, all-time classic series. I got the Suns.
By the way, I want to say something. I love what you said about the Clippers because I think a lot of people forget that Paul George Clippers team was a Western Conference Finals team last year. And granted, I'm not expecting them to beat the Suns, but I think that they are going to be able to show what they're going to be capable of next year with Kawhi Leonard in that series.
All right, so then this is a little off top. Not really. Who's your MVP? Because Mark Smart won Defensive Player of the Year. I think it's well deserved. Who's your MVP? First was for Embiid for me, but Jokic leads in. I change it to Jokic.
Jokic leads in like everything.
Jokic leads in every advanced stat, and he's making players like Beasley. He's making players like. He's making players like
Aaron Gordon,
Monte
Morris. Yeah,
he's making those players very, very good. So most valuable player. I think Jokic is your most valuable player. I mean, if you look at every advanced stats, looking at this on Twitter, right? Like it's Jokic. Storyline, okay, fine. Maybe that's Embiid, but I think you got to give it to Jokic. He's by far the more valuable player.
Okay, so can I give my opinion here?
Yeah.
So, I think I agree. If you're looking at the numbers, it's Jokic. He's carrying a subpar team to 48 wins, 49 wins, and that is impressive.
Yeah.
But the thing for me is, right, Embiid this season, he is never going to have a season better. And I'm not saying he's not going to play better than this, but you are never going to get Joel Embiid to play 68 games ever again. And I think that's very important to mention. This guy
increased his bag. He started hitting step backs.
Right. And I think that this is my one argument. And granted, if you're asking me who I think the MVP is going to be, I think it's Jokic. But if you're really asking me who I think deserves it, I think it's Embiid. And the reason why is, Embiid got that scoring title. He was scoring, obviously less efficient than Jokic, but what he's doing with the jumpers and the step back threes, like we haven't seen a center
he's
this
unguardable
dominant since Shaq. And I think that you should reward him for playing 68 games this year. And I think that if I'm really look at these guys, advanced stats say Jokic is better at nearly everything, but like
everything, actually, not nearly.
But like other than passing, what do you genuinely believe that Jokic this year was better than Embiid at? Because the defense isn't close. The scoring and the bag, it's not close. I think that all of that leads Embiid.
One thing too.
Mm-hmm.
Joel Embiid is the first like since Shaq
No, yeah,
to win a scoring title.
for sure.
And
Right?
playing less than 40 minutes too.
Exactly. So like
That
he's
this
a
stuff is
dominant,
important.
just like Shaq was.
And I think that
In a sense.
I think that if Joel's not going to win this award this year, and he's going to be talking about this thing how like they hate him and how they don't want him to win the award, like how can he win the award? He's
Yeah, I
playing
mean,
like an MVP.
And frankly, Giannis also probably should win
Right.
the award. So it's one of the best. And by all
Giannis-
foreign players.
That's the classical Braun argument. Should the best player win? I mean, Giannis is the best player in the NBA. I think we could all agree on that.
Yeah.
I think
Who
there's a
would you say is
man in
better?
that wears number 7 that can get to that.
No, not
that
this
title.
year. Not this year.
Okay, just because of games played.
Yeah, just because games played.
Okay, totally. Giannis Antetokounmpo. Agreed.
Games played is important. You gotta play games.
Okay.
I think Embiid. I don't think you could give him the MVP because he's never going to play this many games again. I think you
Yeah,
just have to look at him compared to Jokic, who is his main competition. And again, I mean, this is an obvious take, but the fact that Jokic took this if you take Jokic out of that team, I mean, how much? Hold on, I have the stat right here. Let me just pull it up. I wrote this down.
For sure. The 70s, Jokic definitely, I think, won them more games.
The Nuggets are 16.4 points better when Jokic is on the floor.
That's insane.
Which is just insane.
That's
Think about if I told you like Jamal Murray's out this season, Michael Porter misses the season, like just the way that Jokic not just scoring but getting other people involved, rebounding more than 3 he did last year. I mean, he won MVP last year. Yes, I know Embiid was better than he was last year, but just the impact Jokic has made on this Nuggets team is unlike any other players had on another team.
How bad would it be if I said they should just change the rules and they both should win it?
They should tie.
I
I kind of feel like that. They both deserve it. I mean, they really
do.
do.
That's not how
I mean,
anything works.
But I feel like that's
Why? They should. Why not? Why should they?
Tie.
I
Because
don't know,
there
let's
needs to
break
be
down
one
a lot of
MVP. It's most valuable player, one. It
Rookie
makes it
of
more
the
special.
year, not rookies of the year.
Yeah,
Why not
no, I'm
give
actually
it-
with Dan on this one. I think it changes the point just for 1 year. I do agree that they're both insane, and I don't think anyone would be mad if either of them got it. They both had an insane year. I just think with the statistical dominance of Jokic, it's hard not to. And I don't know, not that Embiid in a series you wouldn't necessarily want Embiid, but I don't know. I feel like you can't give it to him because he might not win it again.
No,
Like-
that wasn't my point. My point wasn't, give him the award because he's never gonna have a better chance. The point is, like, if you look at the context behind both guys' stats, I truly believe that Embiid has a very good case. And the thing is, right, obviously you have, Jokic averaging what, like 13.5 rebounds, 7.9 assists. Like,
I don't know
those
the
are
stat,
amazing.
but I remember they're insane.
They're insane. They're totally insane. But like, there's context. Why is Jokic averaging the most rebounds he's ever rebounded this year? That's because this year you lost a lot of your rebounders. Michael Porter was 7 rebounds last year.
No, Michael Porter's great.
Right. And that's gone. Guys able to average 8 assists. Why? Because the point guard is Monte Morris. You don't have Jamal Murray.
That's fair. That's fair.
There's context
That's
behind
fair.
these stats. And if you look at Embiid stats, granted, again, the playmaking is not close. It's not. But that rebounding number with Harden averaging 8 is still 11.
Yeah, it's impressive.
The assist number is 4, which is an all-time high for him. 30.6 points per game. And obviously the defensive impact. I'm not saying that Jokic is a bad defender, but the defensive impact is not close.
Yeah,
and
no,
we all agree
Jokic
with
can't
that.
play perimeter defense like Joel can. It's not even close. You convinced me over. It's 50-50 for me. I don't know. Let's move on.
Well, either way, it's going to be a very deserving player is going to win NBA MVP after an all-time season.